Some crimes are so gruesome, so unimaginable, that they leave an entire nation in shock. The murder of 24-year-old Shad Therian was one of them. In February 2022, a Green Bay, Wisconsin household made a horrifying discovery. A severed head was found in a plastic bucket in the basement of a home. What followed was a crime scene so disturbing that even seasoned investigators were left shaken. The person behind this crime? Taylor Schabusiness, a young woman who, by all accounts, carried out a brutal act of violence with chilling indifference. From the moment police arrived at the crime scene to her arrest and eventual sentencing, Schabusiness displayed a shocking lack of remorse. Her trial gripped the public, not only because of the sheer brutality of the crime, but also due to her bizarre courtroom behavior and disturbing statements. In 2024, Taylor Schabusiness was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But just when the case seemed to have reached its conclusion, another twist emerged. She withdrew her appeal, acknowledging the fairness of her trial. What led to this horrific crime? How did the investigation unfold? And what ultimately sealed Taylor Schabusiness's fate? Tonight, we take a deep dive into one of the most disturbing true crime cases in recent history. Before this case became a national horror story, before the headlines, the trial, and the shocking revelations, there were two people at the center of it: Taylor Schabusiness and Shad Therian. Two young lives that intersected in a way no one could have predicted. Taylor Denise Schabusiness was born in 1998. From the outside, she was just another young woman trying to find her way in life. But behind closed doors, her world was chaotic. Friends and family recall a troubled past marked by instability, drug use, and reckless behavior. Taylor had struggled with substance abuse for years, particularly methamphetamine, and had a history of erratic and violent behavior. By the time she was in her early 20s, she had already been in and out of the legal system, with arrests related to drug possession and disorderly conduct. But perhaps the most alarming part? Those closest to her say she had a fascination with dark, violent fantasies, something that would later come to light in the most horrifying way possible. On the other side of this tragic story was 24-year-old Shad Therian. Described as kind, outgoing, and full of life, Shad was a Green Bay native who loved spending time with friends and family. Though he too had faced struggles, including drug use, he was well loved by those around him. Shad had a particularly close bond with his mother, Tara Pakanich, who would later become a key figure in uncovering the crime. He had his challenges, but no one could have imagined that his life would end in such a brutal and senseless way. Taylor Schabusiness and Shad Therian's relationship was not built on love, but on addiction. The two had known each other for some time, and their connection revolved around drug use, particularly meth and other hard substances. By February 2022, Taylor was married, but her husband was in jail. This didn't stop her from continuing her reckless lifestyle, partying and using drugs with different people. Shad was one of them. On February 22nd, 2022, Taylor and Shad met up for what seemed like just another night of getting high. But what started as a drug-fueled encounter quickly spiraled into one of the most gruesome crimes Green Bay had ever seen. February 22nd, 2022. A bitter winter night in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Most people were settling in for the evening, unaware that inside a quiet neighborhood home, something unimaginable was unfolding. Something so gruesome, so shocking, that even the most hardened investigators would struggle to comprehend it. Inside that house were two people, 24-year-old Shad Therian and 24-year-old Taylor Schabusiness, friends, drug partners, and in a matter of hours, one would be dead, while the other would become the face of one of the most disturbing crimes in Wisconsin's history. The events of that night are not for the faint of heart, but to understand the full weight of what happened, we need to go back to the moment when everything took a dark and irreversible turn. A drug-fueled encounter turns deadly. Taylor Schabusiness and Shad Therian had spent time together before. Their relationship was complicated, bonded not by love, but by addiction. On that night, Taylor had brought methamphetamine. The two spent hours using drugs, slipping deeper into intoxication, their minds clouded, their inhibitions gone. At some point, the drug-fueled haze shifted into something far more sinister. Taylor introduced a chain into their encounter, one that would ultimately become the instrument of death. At first, it may have seemed like a game, a dangerous, reckless game. But then, Taylor didn't stop. She kept pulling, tightening the chain around Shad's neck. Seconds turned into minutes. His struggle weakened, his body convulsed, and then stillness. Shad was dead, but for Taylor Schabusiness, the night was just beginning. The crime scene police would later uncover was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Shad Therian's body had been mutilated, dismembered with chilling precision. His head severed, his torso cut apart, his limbs scattered. His head was found in a bucket in the basement, his torso stuffed inside a storage tote. Other remains placed in plastic bags, some inside a slow cooker box. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie, except this was real. And what makes this even more disturbing? Taylor Schabusiness didn't try to cover up what she had done. She didn't run, she didn't hide. Instead, she stayed in the house, calm, detached, unbothered. When police later asked Schabusiness what happened that night, her response was as chilling as the crime itself. She laughed. She said, "I just went crazy." She admitted she had no intention of stopping, that she enjoyed what she had done, that she had planned to take all of Shad's body parts with her, but, in her words, she got lazy. Think about that for a moment. She got lazy. She told investigators she had been in the middle of the dismemberment when she got tired and decided to leave things as they were. She even seemed amused when police told her they had found the body parts so quickly, as if the horror she had created was nothing more than an afterthought. The discovery of this crime would fall on one person who never should have had to witness such horror: Shad's mother, Tara Pakanich. The next morning, she walked downstairs to the basement of her home. What she saw was beyond comprehension. A bucket, blood, and inside that bucket, her son's severed head. The shock, the terror, the realization that this wasn't a nightmare but reality. She could barely find the words when she called 911, her voice shaking, her breath short. The sheer horror of what she had stumbled upon breaking through every word. Police rushed to the scene expecting the worst, but nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to witness. The crime scene was not just brutal, it was inhuman, senseless, unfathomable, and the person responsible was still inside the house. When officers found Taylor Schabusiness, she was covered in blood, and when they asked her what had happened, she simply smirked. The question now wasn't just why she did it, but whether she felt anything at all. And as investigators would soon learn, the answer was even darker than they imagined. Imagine you're a police officer. You've just arrived at a crime scene. The details are vague. Something about a body, a disturbing discovery in a basement. But nothing prepares you for what you're about to see. You step inside. The air is thick. The walls whisper with the aftermath of something unspeakable. Then, you see it. A bucket, a severed head inside, blood, so much blood. And then, you hear movement. The killer is still here. As officers made their way through the house, they weren't sure what to expect. Was the person responsible armed? Dangerous? Would they try to flee? Would they resist? And then there she was, Taylor Schabusiness, sitting calmly, her clothes soaked in blood, a blank expression on her face. One officer pulled out his gun. "Get on the ground!" But Taylor didn't run. She didn't scream. She didn't even seem surprised. Instead, she smiled. They handcuffed her, pulled her to her feet. Blood smeared across her skin, and when they asked her one simple question, "What happened?" her response sent chills down their spines. She tilted her head and said, "That's a good question." Inside the interrogation room, Taylor Schabusiness was almost relaxed. She leaned back in her chair, her wrists still cuffed, eyes heavy from the drugs still in her system. The officers laid it out. The evidence. The body. The blood. They asked her to explain. And she did, with disturbing ease. She admitted to killing Shad. She admitted to strangling him, to cutting him apart, to leaving his remains scattered around the house. But it wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. No remorse, no regret, no hesitation. At one point, she even laughed, joking that she had planned to take the body parts with her, but got lazy. Investigators pressed her. Was this premeditated? Did she intend to kill him? Her answer was chilling. "I just went crazy." She talked about the murder the way someone might describe a casual night out. She didn't try to justify it. She didn't try to deny it. She just didn't care. But then, something even more disturbing happened. One officer asked if she felt bad about what she had done, if she had any regrets. Taylor thought for a moment. Then, her lips curled into a smirk. And she said, Kind of. Not because she took a life, not because she left a mother to discover her son's severed head in a bucket. She said she kind of regretted it because she had liked it too much. This wasn't just a crime. This was something darker, something far more terrifying. Taylor Schabusiness wasn't just admitting to murder. She was admitting to enjoying it. The officers knew in that moment what they were dealing with. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't an accident. This was something far worse. A person with no empathy, no remorse, no soul. Taylor Schabusiness wasn't just guilty, she was dangerous. And now it was up to the courts to decide what to do with her. Some trials are about justice, some are about truth, and then there are trials like this. Trials where the crime is so brutal, so unthinkable, that the only thing left to decide is how to punish the person responsible. By the time Taylor Schabusiness walked into a Wisconsin courtroom, the world already knew her name. They knew what she had done. They had heard the gruesome details, the crime scene, the confession, the complete and utter lack of remorse. But no one was prepared for what she would do next. On July 24th, 2023, Taylor Schabusiness sat in front of a judge, facing charges of first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault. She faced life in prison, no possibility of parole, no way out. And how did she react? Did she cry? Did she beg for mercy? Did she show even a shred of humanity? No. She smirked. She laughed. She whispered to herself, rocking back and forth like she was barely paying attention. And then she snapped. It was supposed to be a routine hearing, but suddenly, without warning, Taylor lunged. Her target? Her own attorney. The courtroom erupted. Officers rushed in, tackling her to the ground. She fought back, wild, thrashing, screaming. It took multiple people to restrain her. And as she was dragged away, she didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just grinned. For many, that was the moment it became clear. This wasn't just a murderer sitting in that courtroom. This was someone completely unhinged. Throughout the trial, prosecutors painted a picture of a woman who didn't just kill, but enjoyed it. They played her interrogation tapes. They described the sheer brutality of the crime. They revealed how, after killing Shad Therian, she had gone upstairs, put on clean clothes, and scrolled through social media as if nothing had happened. And when asked why she did it, her response was simple: I don't know. But the most gut-wrenching testimony came from the person who had suffered the most, Shad Therian's mother, Tara Pakanich. She described finding her son's head in a bucket, the smell of blood, the way her knees gave out as she realized what she was looking at. She spoke of the nightmares, the grief, The impossible task of trying to understand why anyone would do this to her child. And through it all, Taylor Schabusiness sat there, unmoved, expressionless, as if she was watching a movie that had nothing to do with her. The jury didn't take long. In just over 30 minutes, they reached a decision. Guilty on all counts. And so on September 26, 2023, Taylor Schabusiness was sentenced to life in prison. No possibility of parole, no second chances. The judge's words were clear.
So, Ms. Schabusiness, this is your opportunity to address me if there's anything on your mind you'd like to say before I pass sentence.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
This is one of the most shocking and disturbing cases I have ever seen. And with that, Taylor Schabusiness was led away. No tears, no final words, just a vacant stare, as if none of it mattered. For the world, the case was over. The monster was behind bars. Or so they thought. Because just when everyone thought Taylor Schabusiness had disappeared into the depths of the prison system, she made one last move.